Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Hello, Mehrad. How are you?
I am well. Great to see you, Madeline.
I can see that. I can see that you are. It's so good to spend this time with you. I'm very excited to have Dr. Nazari on this show because he is an incredible leader and innovator in the area of enlightened negotiation, and he's going to tell you more about that. Let me just introduce him. He's a passionate practitioner of applied spirituality, and he believes in preserving authenticity of ancient practices and applying them in our daily life in the 21st century. You know, Mehard, you have always been someone I've looked up to as being someone with the highest integrity and kind and also, you know, just really available. You've always been that person to me. You know, how long have we known each other? Back to Randall? 20 years?
20 years, close that, yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I've watched him. He's already was developed, of course, when I met him, but even more so now. He is a corporate trainer, an executive advisor, and the author of multiple award-winning book, Enlightened Negotiation. Enlightened Negotiation. I mean, who would even think of that? I guess only Mehrad. And it talks about, and the subtitle is 8 Universal Laws to Connect, Create, and Prosper. He was recently recognized as one of the 20 thought leaders around the globe by the International Leadership Association and was selected to contribute a chapter to Evolving Leadership for Collective Well-Being, Lessons for Implementing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Wow, that's great. And I hope they do. Mehrad holds a PhD in leadership and human behavior and an MBA. For 3 decades, he's distinguished himself as a business leader in San Diego with several accolades to his credit. He also served for a decade as an adjunct professor for the International Business Negotiation at U.S. International University. Mehrad has studied with some of the most amazing spiritual masters, including Walt Baptiste, Swami Veda Bharati of India, and Koizan Josu Roshi of Japan. He has been teaching mindfulness meditation and yoga for over 25 years and served on the faculty of Esalen Institute and also Rancho La Puerta, right? And he coaches individuals as well as corporations, including Sony, Brookfield, eBay, YPO, Gold, and the Port of San Diego. Dr. Nazari has been a presenter at Consciousness Capitalism and has served on the board of Consciousness Capitalism in San Diego. So amazing. And this from Dr. Nazari, I love this. Healthy lifestyle requires healthy relationships. Healthy relationships require healthy interactions. Healthy interactions require healthy communications and negotiations. So it's not just about what you eat, it's about what's eating you, right? So he also says, as living beings, we are food and oxygen dependent. We must eat, breathe in order to survive. But let us not forget that we are social beings. We must interact in order to survive. Unfortunately, most of us have not mastered the art and science of interaction. As a society, we have resorted to conflict resolution instead of being proactive using conflict prevention. I love that. Human resources and their interactions are subject to certain natural laws, and we must honor them in order to succeed. And this is where his 8 universal laws of enlightened negotiation come in. And he's going to explain a little bit about that to us today. Lucky us. And so what are the laws governing such notions? And did all of this just come? I guess it came to you through your 30 years of experience and spiritual training and I guess applying them and being in business.
Madeline, it is interesting. Once Steve Jobs said that you cannot connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect the dots looking back. What happened in your life, the journey that you went through from place to places, and when it happened to me, I looked back, I realized everything that I had done was really to bring me to this point. And there is a point in our life that we recognize what is our mission, what is the agency that we have been gifted with to serve humanity. And working in a business environment and then working in academia as a professor and research and studying negotiation. And finally, I was also a part of my practices has been my spiritual practices. It was the combination, all of them, that we know negotiation and interaction as we do it in a society, and we put a business hat on and we act like that. But ultimately, we are a spiritual being. How do we show up as that? And I remember I was teaching a course in Esalen, and after I finished teaching meditation, I was walking up the hill, and all of a sudden, it was just this message came to me that my book has to have a spiritual aspect, essence. And that is what I really brought together, these elements that are truly universal elements, but they are also spiritual elements.
I love that. I love that. So you were already in the process, but then it came to you to...
It is interesting. I was already, involved in business, and then I got a letter from university that if I don't finish my dissertation, I lose credit. So I went back to school. I finished my dissertation, and actually I wrote my dissertation on negotiation. And I was really stunned, the lack of consciousness about negotiation. And at the time, we are talking about the early 90s, there weren't very many universities, institutions that they were teaching negotiation. People would go to MBA program, they would learn everything from management to economics and finance, but nothing about negotiation. And that they come out, the first thing they do, they need to negotiate for a job or, for their business. And so I offered a course at the PhD and the master and PhD level at USIU, US International University, which was very well received. And I did that for 10 years. And meanwhile, as I mentioned, I was on my path of a spiritual development, yoga, meditation. And I recognized some of the similarities between negotiation and yoga that I was doing. And perhaps it is interesting to know that I thought, in yoga, I need strength, I need flexibility, I need mindfulness. That is the same thing that you need in negotiation. You need the strength, which is about knowledge. You need flexibility to navigate your way through, and then mindfulness. So those are the 3 principles that I found similarity. And then from there on, I built up the rest, and that became basically the essence of my book. But as I was teaching people, because I had brought up so many different elements, into negotiation, students were asking, "Where is your book coming out? When is your book coming out?"
Mhm.
So it was the demand that I thought, no, I guess there is something to it. And I wrote the book as was the process of developing the book when I got that message, and it was very clear that it had to come from that spiritual essence of who we are.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, it reminds me of, my experience, my spiritual experiences, including my Native American experiences, really had an effect on my medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then I put them together, and then that's when I started, diving into many different disciplines and realizing this is where the power is. It's not one way or the other, and we don't throw away any medicines. We put them together, and that's the most powerful way.
Absolutely. And as you said it, there's only one truth. We can look at it from different perspective, different religion, different, philosophy, but there's only one truth, and we can bring it to whatever we do.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and spirituality covers a lot of bases.
Absolutely. And there's so much commonality with all different religion, different wisdom traditions that the essence is the same.
Yes, beautiful. So, Mehrad, when you were growing up as a young boy, did you have any inkling that you'd be leaving, living this spiritual life that you're living, and that would lead you to this innovative spiritual negotiation?
To be honest with you, there was always a connection to the source. And however you want to define the source, knowing that there is a higher intelligence. And I knew there was that, and there was that connection. But after different experiments, I found my path through yoga and meditation. But frankly, no, I did not know that this is going to be the case. As a matter of fact, I basically, when I started writing my book, it was as obligation to serve, others. And I accidentally ended up in a seminar about the power of storytelling. And I am a person that I've had a really hard time tell any story about my life because was brought up in a culture. You don't talk about yourself. You don't brag about yourself. And I was told that my stories are important just to me and I shouldn't be selfish taking people's time to talk about it. But in that workshop, it was pulled out of me, stories. And then once the stories coming out, as I said, connected in the dot, I realized the whole reason I've been put on this planet is to share this gift. And that's it. And from there on, there was another energy that was coming through, that it is not me, it is a gift from universe, and I'm just the guardian of it. I have to share it.
Awesome.
The same way I feel the same way that you are doing your job. I mean, there is such a natural way of going about it. There is no other option. That is it. We are put on this planet, and this is the mission.
Yeah, it's your heart leads you, but your mind gathers all this knowledge and allows you to be able to express it and give in a very, succinct way.
Yes, and if I could also add to that we take the knowledge and turn it to wisdom, and you pass it on. So that is, I believe, is part of our mission.
Beautiful. So tell us, what are the 8 universal laws? Can you share that with us? And
sure.
From your book?
Yes. And it's interesting because they are also related to different stories that happen in my life. And first of all, we are talking about the 8 universal laws. The 8 by itself represent in many cultures prosperity. So and prosperity not just only on the financial part, but as far as well-being, as far as reputation, as far as relationship. And also, if you look at the number 8 from the side, is infinity. That the deal ends, but the result and reputation are infinite. So how we go about any interaction, having that consciousness that we are creating a ripple in the consciousness of the whole universe. How are we going forward with this? So that creates a different mindset. Now, coming back to those 8 universal laws or 8 spiritual laws, the law of intention, the law of trust, communication, strength, flexibility, manifestation, mindfulness, and reflection. These are 8 laws that once you are sort of used to, we learn them and we start applying them to our negotiation, we see how naturally it comes out, and it takes us to a different level of negotiation, which is a big subject. And the reason there is so much conflict in our society, I believe, is because of that understanding, that awareness of what really negotiation is.
So so apart from your book, how do you raise the consciousness of people to understand more about how to apply these laws? Or like even in everyday life, they seem so important, just even talking to your loved one.
Malin, what really shook me up is a story that I share in my book also. I was visiting my parents in Iran, and that was after a long time that I had not seen them. And my father was a very intellectual man, and he loved to get into discussion. He always surrounded himself with philosopher writers, and he was very proud that I was the first one in my family to graduate from the college, and I got my PhD, and I'm teaching at the university. He was very proud of that, and he wanted to get into discussion. And one day I was walking by, he was sitting in the living room. He said, but he didn't understand what was this yoga thing that I'm doing. And he wanted to learn about that. He said, so Mehrad, what is this yoga thing that you're doing? And to me, yoga is not a matter of conversation, or you really have to experience it. I said, Dad, when you're ready, we'll do it. And he was really upset that I wouldn't get into discussion. The same thing happened next year. I'm visiting. He asked the same question, same response. The third year, he asked the same question. And when I told him, when you're ready, we'll do it, he said, okay, let's do it. I was shocked. And I asked him to lie down on the floor just to begin with, to get him ready. I did a 3-part breath that you're familiar with, that you breathe first in the lower abdomen, then you add the diaphragm and then upper chest, and you exhale the reverse order. And we did that for 15 minutes, slowly breathing in full capacity, slowly releasing the breath. And then after 15 minutes, I asked him to sit down. He sat down, and I saw tears coming from ears. I had rarely seen my father's tear, and never so clearly. I was shocked. What did I do? It wasn't that hard. I said, Dad, what's going on? By then, he was 84. Malin, he said, nobody ever told me how to breathe.
Oh.
This was the first time he connected with his breath. And his look on his face was as if he was cheated all his life. And I thought, oh my God, we breathe all the time, but how many people really spend time to fine-tune their breathing practice, which is such a powerful tool? And then my field being in a negotiation, we do it constantly throughout the day. But how often do we take the time to fine tune that skill? So that is the sort of similarity of being a human being, a live and, animal that we are, that living being that we are, but we are also a social being. And that in connection is essential. The fact that we don't fine tune these skills, that's why we are in so much trouble, and so there's so much conflict is going on. And in answer back to your question, right now in our society in the United States, over 85% of the workforce experience conflict at their work. And that costs American business over $350 billion a year. Adding the personal conflict, it easily is close to $1 trillion a year. And that is totally a waste of time, waste of energy. We were meant to be here to make this planet a better place. We were invited to do this. And the fact that we forget who we are, why we are here, and we don't learn to those skills that has put us in this position. And one way is by showing up, coming as that spiritual being that I was saying, and embracing every interaction from that place of awareness. And the other part of it is one of the reason it is happening the way it is happening is that we put all our interactions, whether it's communication, whether it's dialogue, monologue, broadcasting, persuasion, debate, negotiation, we put them all in the same bucket, and we call it communication. As a matter of fact, there are languages in the world that there is no word for negotiation. They use different words. They don't use the word negotiation. So that conscious is not really there exactly what are we talking about. And as a result of that, as I said, if something goes wrong, it was a miscommunication, misunderstanding. No, every single one of these that I just mentioned has a different mindset, requires different skill set. And we can talk about any of them, but my expertise is in negotiation and how is it different than persuasion and debate, so forth, so on. And once we acknowledge, we have that awareness, right now I'm negotiating with my spouse, with my neighbors, with my family. These are the skills that we need, and this is where we are going with it. So it's very different.
So you must be really sought after by companies with that kind of, expense that conflict is causing us to train their people.
They are realizing it. They are realizing, as you know, for example, majority, I couldn't say majority, but significant number of malpractice, medical malpractice lawsuits has nothing to do with the doctor's expertise and their skills, has to do with their lack of bedside manner, not being able to listen, not to be able to connect, interact with patient. And that is scientifically, they have proven that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, even though that is a small portion of the medical doctors that cause that, but significant number of those lawsuits are related to that. And as I mentioned, we started our conversation, we all have certain agencies, certain talents, expertise that we bring to this life. But regardless of what we do, human interactions, connections are essential. I recently was working with the international, it was an international gathering of different expertise. We're coming together to create this new product, and they had gathered the top thought leaders in each field, After 6 months, they were closing to shut down the whole operation because of the personal issues, interactions that they couldn't utilize their expertise. And that is a shame.
Yeah.
That is a shame.
Yes. I have seen many healing circles fall apart for the same reason. Although luckily I've been able to be part of several that, were able to leave their egos outside and trust and work, more spiritually together. And I think that's what it takes.
Absolutely. First is really having the mindset that this is what we are doing. And in order to do that, these are the skills that are required. And it's a matter of education and then putting them to application.
Mm-hmm. What is the most, well, I don't know if you can say, but I mean, the most amazing negotiation you ever took part in? I'm sure there's many, but.
Oh, God. Frankly, when I started being exposed to this material, it really changed my life. And not only it changed my life as far as the success and building relationship, but also I want to just go for a little bit back that every opportunity that we have in this life, it comes to us and we have to be able to embrace it. As I mentioned, there are languages that there is no word for negotiation. And when it comes to negotiation, most people know the negotiation as the art of the deal. The more we can get, the more successful we are. But 30 years, actually over 30 years, closer to 40 years, of scientific research has concluded that the givers are smarter than the takers. And that is evidence supports this. As a matter of fact, one of the study was the meta-analysis of 28 studies that was done during the last 30 years to see what is really distinguish negotiators from great negotiators, those who we really look up to. And the common practice of the great negotiators is they care about the success of the other side as much as they care about their own success. Nice. And that is something that another study Vanderbilt University had done not long ago. First, they tested the intelligence of the participant, and then they send them out to negotiate. Sure enough, intelligence paid off. But not in a way most people think, in a way that the more intelligent participants were, the counterpart did better. And it is not that those intelligent people, they gave away the store, but they created value for the other side. They would not end the negotiation until they had created value for the other side. So as a MD, you appreciate if I I have come up with this idea that is a simplification of development of our brain. But bear with me for a second, that first we have this reptilian brain, which is all about self-interest, which is all about haggling. And then we have the mammalian brain, all is about connection, love, compassion, and that comes to be negotiation, to be fair and, deal with it from that perspective. And then we develop this new cortex that is about higher thinking, decision-making, creativity. It's about enlightened negotiation. How can we create values? How can we maximize the collective gain of both sides? So you see how people are acting. They have tapped into their reptilian brain. It's all about me. How can I get more? Or, as I said, you can tell where they show up, where they are operating from, which part of the brain is the dominant.
That's beautiful. I like that. It's like the difference between a technician and a healer, like from my perspective.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yes.
Because the healer has compassion and cares about both sides and, cares about the outcome, of the other person more than their own. That's very interesting.
Yes. Yes.
So was there a particular incident of negotiation?
I can share so many stories with you, but one thing that perhaps would be beneficial for listeners is that the story that I shared in the other book that you were referring to for the United Nations, and that is a story of two siblings negotiating that in El Salvador. My wife and I, Michelle, we have visited El Salvador many times, and I was sort of making friends with the locals. And there were these two young siblings that I had connected a nice relationship. And they were asking about what I do, and I had shared with them what I did. And we didn't go back to visit for several years, but when after a few years we went back, while we arrived, the first week or so, everybody, when their name of Carlos and Carolina, these two young siblings came, they referred to them the wise siblings of the village. And I was wondering, what did they do that they all of a sudden received this honor to be called that way? After about a couple of weeks, finally I got to see them. I said, you guys, what happened? Every time I bring your name, they refer to you with such a reverence. And they said, yeah, Mehrad, after you left, our father passed away. And we ended up receiving the farm, and we had to divide it between Carolina and myself. And that was, in most of the villager, that was one of the source of the conflict. Siblings, they were fighting over their land and they could not get resolved, and you would drive, and many lands were left there unattended because of the fight that was going on between the family members. And they said, we decided not to jump into conclusion and divide the land. We decided to just walk side by side for a couple of weeks and discuss, share, what's our vision, what's our purpose, what do we want in this life, what sort of a legacy do we want to leave behind, and what is really gets you up in the morning, gets you excited. They realized that Carolina really wanted to establish her own business and grow blue corn to make blue corn tortillas, sell it in the village, and establish a business. On the other side, Carlos was thinking big, that soybean has really, the prices have gone up, and he can farm his land with soybean and sell it to the capital city, and, was wonderful. And after a while, they decided, they don't really need to divide the land. They can grow these two crops together. They call it co-cropping. And that's what they did. So instead of having 50% of the land, they both end up with 100% of the land. Irrigation saved them a lot of money. Labor saved them money. All of a sudden, these two young siblings are prospering, while the rest of the village are left behind. That also gave the villager a new ideas. I mean, that is the essence of enlightened negotiation. Looking at different possibilities. How can we maximize collective gain?
I love that. And actually, in reality, those two crops would help each other.
You're right. Yes.
Soybeans are nitrogen fixers, I think. And
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
soybeans bring nitrogen to the soil, and corn needs nitrogen to use it. And not only that, when we was talking about the haggling versus negotiation versus enlightened negotiation, everybody talks about win-win, but enlightened negotiation is win-win-win.
Huh.
The effect that rippling effect that it has in the community, in surroundings. As a result of that, not only they grow these two crops, their children were very close to each other. They started growing zucchini under the whole thing. Actually, those are, again, three crops that you can do. So it just energized the whole village to come together. And they were the model of the agriculture in their community. And just as a result of thinking and, being really human beings that we were meant to be.
And I love it how the plants are metaphors of their enlightened negotiation. So beautiful.
Well, we are part of nature.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's so important.
Absolutely.
As we know now that the soil is part of our health, and they somehow knew that. So tell me more about the United Nations document.
Well, the book came as a result of the International Leadership Association realized that this 190 some countries have come together to agree on something, but there is not really a manual about how to implement them. And that was, they reached out to what they call, thought leaders around the globe. And my chapter specifically is about enlightened negotiation. As we discussed earlier, you can have most, expertise in different areas, but at the end, you have to sit down and communicate and interact with other people. And how do we do that? And I wrote this chapter about how to use these 8 spiritual laws of trust, establishing trust, communicating properly, how to get a strength through knowledge of ourselves, knowledge of the other party, and how to be flexible. And flexibility is really one of the key in negotiation. And the reason a lot of negotiation fails is lack of flexibility, which is really about lack of creativity. If we are tap into our creativity and create more options, we can easily be flexible. We are not flexible because we don't see options. So that is a big part of it. And then manifestation. What do we really want to manifest in this life? And there are elements that we go deeply into that chapter. And mindfulness of ourselves, our other party, and how to mindful of the process of negotiation. And finally, reflection at the end of each day, each negotiation, really reflecting of what we did. How have we done it better? Or how can we next time do a better job? And so these are all part of it that we have to start implementing in order to apply enlightened negotiation to all negotiations in life.
So, wow, Mehrad, what a legacy you have left us. I mean, your method for negotiation in the United Nations. That's just tremendous.
Well, as I said earlier, this has nothing to do with me. This was a gift, which is a loan from universe in my anonymous guardian. And ultimately, I was just sharing it with my wife the other day that we have been invited to this party called Life on Planet Earth. And this party has been going on for 13.8 billion years. And we are just asked to stop by for a short period of time. And its party is not about in our honor. We are honored to be in this party, to be invited. And the universe has been so kind enough, not only invited us to this party, was also has given us a gift to bring to the party to make a party a better place. Mm-hmm. And this is not a party favor for us to hold on to and brag about it. It is something to share and serve humanity. And will be gone soon. But again, what do we leave behind? And right. That is the essence of many spiritual practices.
I understand what you're saying, but, and I often find myself saying, I just work here, so, but also, I mean, you needed to be clear enough and have enough knowledge and have enough know-how and have enough spirituality to be able to, form this method and be part of this contribution. So you do get some credit, okay?
I'll take it, but ultimately, you said it. You said it very well. Yeah, I just work here.
Yeah, but that takes, a special being, and hopefully we can have many more of those, and we can connect and come together and make this place a better place to be, like we originally agreed when we came.
Yeah, and I'm sure, everybody is. There is no reason for anybody.
Oh, everybody's capable, but not everybody's has raised their consciousness high enough or is focusing their consciousness. And I believe, too, that's why we're here, is to help people point their sacred arrow in a sacred direction.
Beautiful. Yes.
And we do so by example and by, amazing books like yours and hopefully mine when it gets published. So.
Yeah, actually, what you just said reminded me what happened to me when I I had my business practice. I was teaching at university, and then this yoga experiences really had some wonderful spiritual experiences, and I was ready to give up everything and go to India and devote myself to spiritual practices. And I was really contemplated on that for some times. And I remember we were in El Salvador on a yoga retreat with my teacher, Walt Baptiste. And one afternoon, I found him sitting at the beach. I thought this is a perfect time to break the news to him and let him know my intention. And I walked to him proudly and I said, Gurudev, I have decided that, I'm going to devote all my life to yoga, meditation, and my spiritual practices. I'm ready to give up everything and go to India. And he looked up at me and he said, Mehrad, do you think the world needs another cave yogi? And I was shocked. And he turned back again to me. He said, the world needs yogis in Wall Street and Main Street. Go and do whatever you do and make that your spiritual work. I walked backward. I didn't know what had hit me because I wasn't ready for that response. And it took me, frankly, several years to really understand what he said, that whatever we do, we have to make that a spiritual practice, not go ahead and do, business as usual, and then once a week go to the church or mosque or synagogue and, be spiritual. No. When you go to the office, that is your temple. Mm-hmm. How do I show up here? How am I going to do this? Because that is what the world needs right now.
Yes, I agree. My teacher, one of my teachers, Joseph Real, taught me very early on, and it's a chapter in my book. It's called Work is Worship.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, yes, yes.
And once you understand that, it changes your whole life. And I realized that I already had that attitude. As a matter of fact, as a young intern, I can remember bouncing into work and being so happy that I was there, at UCLA, doing what I wanted to do. And as you probably know, the hours and the conditions are incredibly difficult. And every third night or so, you don't sleep at all. And then the next night, you hardly sleep because you have so much work left over. And maybe one night a week, you get some sleep and decent food. And people would ask me, like, what is it with you? I had one attending, he wanted to know, he says, what are you smoking? Or what are you on? I said, no, this is just me. I'm happy to be doing what I'm destined to do. And I know that this is going to take me where I'm supposed to be. So.
Absolutely right. As a matter of fact, that is the same thing. My other teacher, Swami Vedabhrati, used to say that if your professional and spiritual life and professional and personal life are not the same as your spiritual life, there is no spiritual life. Exactly. Yeah. It is how we show up. Those are the spiritual practices.
And I'm still that crazy girl today.
Well, that's the beauty of you. And, you're natural and you just let that inner energy to flow and blossom.
No, but I love what I do. But now I'm doing much more than medicine with people. I'm having a podcast with you, which is so much fun. And I get to interact with amazing teachers and leaders such as yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise.
So are you going to get back into lecturing in person, or?
It has been a wonderful opportunity to, it was another gift of the COVID, unintended gift of COVID that forced us to really prioritize our values in life, and also forced us to be more creative. And a lot of these online learning has really accelerated. And I'm in the process of finalizing my course on Enlightened Negotiation online.
Nice.
And that, but of course, as I mentioned earlier, we are social being. We need that human connection. There is nothing that would substitute our connection, just by real connection. So it is a combination. It's going to be both in-person as well as online learning.
So do you have any courses ongoing right now or coming up?
Well, as I said, not yet, but they will be coming up soon, and it would be on my website, and hopefully we'll be announcing them soon, but waiting for the last few chapters to finalize.
Excellent. So before we close, do you have any words of wisdom, advice for my listeners to, tell them how to go about their lives, being more mindful of their negotiations in interacting with other people?
As I mentioned earlier, it is an opportunity. This is a really gift to be on this planet at this time. And what a gift to see all around, see the beauty of the nature. And we were put on this planet for a certain reason. And when we come into interaction, really to be able to see that interaction from with a larger lens, that these two spiritual beings have come together. How are we going to interact? What is going to be the result of that interaction? And what is the rippling effect, continuous effect that is going to leave behind? We always have that opportunity. How do we show up? How do we embrace it? And how to be utilizing all the agency that we have been gifted with and using them in co-creating something magnificent, something noble that not only helps us, but also helps everybody around us. And showing up with that notion goes a long way. And like anything else that we do, first it's a matter of awareness, which this was about awareness of that opportunity. Then it's about education, learning about the difference between negotiation and haggling. You know, a lot of people know haggling, but a negotiation is different. An enlightened negotiation yet is different. So to be able to learn what are the skills that require for us to achieve that state.
I just love that. And it seems like this could, carry through all the way from, going into your office and talking to your people that you know so well to, very large situations where you're doing business with corporations or companies or everything. It's just throughout the life, it looks like very applicable. Tell us again, what's the name of your book and how do we get it? Your two books.
Yeah, Madeline, you just mentioned something that I would like to add to it.
Please.
That we get up, we go to work. I would like to even add, we wake up, we meet our spouse, we meet our children, we go out the door, we see the neighbors, we drive to work. These are all negotiations.
Yes.
There are a lot of negotiations even before we get to the office. And sometimes they're even more significant in our lives than those business transactions that we look at negotiation. So negotiation is anytime there's an expectation of exchange, whether it's good, services, action, behavior, it is automatically a negotiation. And when we fail in that last part of exchange to reciprocate that exchange, that becomes the source of conflict and grows into bigger problems and a bigger problem. So it's just a matter of understanding of that is negotiation. Sometimes it's implicit, sometimes it's explicit. And as far as the book is Enlightened Negotiation, 8 Universal Laws to Connect, Create, and Prosper. And I would like to offer your listeners a gift that if they want to go on my website and let's use the code word of soul doctrine. If they do that, I send them the book free. I just have to charge them for the shipping. And so as a gift to your listeners.
That's so lovely of you. Once again, the Mehrad that I described in the beginning, you're always so giving and available and very high integrity gentleman here. Thank you. That's lovely. And how do people get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing?
Dr. Nazari, DRNAZARI, at enlightenednegotiation.com. And any questions, as we discussed about it earlier, we are here to serve. And, that's why I'm here. And that's why you invited me. And so any question, just please let me know. I'll be glad to help you.
And what's your website, please?
Enlightenednegotiation.com.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. I don't want this to end, but I guess we'll say goodbye for now.
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And also thank you for what you do. Thank you.
My distinct pleasure.
I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the International Podcast People, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokek brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath, especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance.